Hi, this is Barry Schwartz from the Search Engine Roundtable. This is the Search Buzz video recap. We do this weekly, and this covers the news over the Search Engine Roundtable over the past week. Today is April 23rd, Friday. We're doing this a little bit differently. Right now, I'm actually live broadcasting this, in addition to doing the video podcast, which I'll archive a little bit later today and Friday. So I have some questions. I'm going to have some questions over here on this screen, so I might turn my head, as well as it's recording on this screen over here as well. That's what people are live streaming on right now, and plus they'll be able to see my screen at the same time. I'm not sure if I'll be able to publish this in the final version. I don't know if I can get this captured stuff over there, but this will be a test ongoing, and we'll see how that goes. So I'm going to get started right away, and hopefully we'll get some questions, and we'll see how this goes. All right, so the first thing I wanted to discuss was Google Caffeine. That's obviously probably the more important topics that people are interested in, and I thought we'll go ahead and discuss that first. I've been following a Webmaster World thread, which has been going on and on over and over again about the different changes over at Google. One of those things people are noticing is that Google Caffeine seems to be live. At least 80% of the data centers over at Google. What does this mean for you and I? I mean, nothing much really. I mean, we can't necessarily bank on what's going to happen in terms of caffeine. Google has been working on this new infrastructure called Google Caffeine, and when it goes live, I assume they'll let us know. Right now, they haven't said anything in terms of when it's going live. They said it might be coming in the weeks or months, but we still don't know. And it's been something they've been working on, I think, since November or December of last year, and it's still been going on. I mean, I think they've been working on it longer than that, but they told us about it in November and December. That being said, people are saying in Webmaster World that it's live on 80% of the different data centers. The question is, how true is that? And if that's true, when will we see it live on all the data centers? And what's the holdup and stuff like that? So that's the main question. I'm not sure if anybody in the chat room has any questions specifically about caffeine. I know somebody said over here they want me to talk about if there's any ranking changes noticed or anything like that. Specifically, Google specifically said that you should not notice any ranking changes or significant ranking changes in terms of caffeine. It's not a ranking algorithm update. All caffeine is really how Google crawls the web and indexes that content and stores that content in their database and returns that content in the search results. It's not how they actually rank those search results. So that's the main question that we have in the chat room right now. I don't know if anybody else has questions in the chat room, but if you do, you can definitely go ahead and go to Google, go to seroundtable.com/live.html, and that's where we're broadcasting this live, and you'll be able to ask questions. And we'll do this every Friday morning at about 9 o'clock in the morning, depending on the schedule. Just follow me on Twitter at rustybrick, twitter.com/rustybrick, to find out when we will be live broadcasting this. Okay, so that was the first topic. Let's move on to the next. The next topic is Google SEO related. So two SEO related Google topics. One is that Google says they crawl sitemap files. You know how you index, most webmasters these days who are interested in ranking well in Google and want Google to discover their content, they create Google sitemap files. These sitemap files are typically XML based, and they tend to help Google find and discover content and hopefully help you get more content into Google. Google was asked a question in the Webmaster forums is how often do they update or crawl those sitemap files. Google said it really depends on how often that sitemap file is updated. If the sitemap file is updated several times a day, Google will likely crawl and index that sitemap file several times a day. If it's updated only a few times a week, Google will only crawl it and update it a few times a week. They look at how often you update it, and the more times you update it, the more times they actually go ahead and crawl those things. The other question is, the other topic we covered in terms of Google SEO was that Google is said to try not to change your URLs. If you're doing a major site revamp, it's best to leave the URL structure the same because Google has all those URLs. And this applies to any search engine. Typically, when you're doing a site revamp, you do not want to change the URLs of the URLs that rank very well in the search engines. If you have to, obviously use a 301 redirect to make sure all the redirects are in place. But if you can, use whatever you can to keep the URLs the same using mod rewrite or other rewrite techniques to keep those the same. That's a topic we covered on April 20th at SEOroundtable.com. So now I just received a question in the chat room, something not related to what I'm talking about specifically. Do you think black hat software like XRunner could be used for white hat SEO link building? I don't know if something I didn't prepare. This is not one of the things we talked about this week. So please, if you're in the chat room, just ask questions specific to what I'm talking about, and we'll hopefully cover that. All right, so those are the two SEO topics in terms of Google. There are two Google changes that might be significant to how Google changed their search results. One is Google is now showing search suggestions that are more localized based on metro area. So for example, if you're in the Chicago metro area and you type in a query bull, Google will auto-complete that, particularly to the Chicago Bulls, which is a sports team in Chicago. So Google's using metro areas in search suggestions, in auto-suggest, to automatically suggest search results that are specific to your metro area as opposed to specific globally. That's a major change to how Google suggestions work, and it might impact how your rankings work. If you have any questions about that, let me know. Other changes that Google has applied to their search results is that now they are doing more autocorrections. Meaning, one is basically Google has expanded their autocorrections. Meaning, basically, Google will say if you type something wrong into Google and they think it's a spelling mistake, they will not only say "did you mean," but they will actually show you the "did you mean" results right away. This way, it's basically saying you're wrong. Here's what you really searched for, and we're not going to show you the other thing that you actually searched for. Obviously, that's a complaint from many people, but that's the way Google handles it. So basically, that's launched in 31 different languages and 180 domains at Google. In addition, Google's now even correcting more search results, specifically names. So if you use an adjective in a name, like, I don't know, Barry Schwartz SEO, it will probably correct my name towards the SEO Barry Schwartz, who might spell it differently than the Barry Schwartz who's a teacher or professor. Even though we spell the same, so it doesn't really apply there. Other change also in Google International Properties. You can see here on my screen. Let me see if I could. I'll probably share a picture. I'll probably share a picture, but let me swap this over here. And you can see on my screen over here that Google's using what they call virtual keyboards for their international properties. So now, if you go to Google, and I'll show you this live. Let's say you go to Google Israel. And what you see here, up at the top over here, is a little keyboard right next to the search box. You click the keyboard, up comes a keyboard with the way the characters work. This is live on pretty much all the international properties that are non-Latin keyboard, non-Latin characters, and you can actually type and stuff like that. This is Google's virtual API for keyboards, and it works pretty well. And that's another major change that Google launched internationally at Google's different search results. So that covers the Google search page. Now let's talk a little bit about AdSense. Google AdSense, there's a thread over at Webmaster World suggesting that publishers who are based in the UK make more money than publishers based elsewhere. This is based on two different people who are AdSense publishers who were living in other countries, ultimately moved to the UK, and said nothing changed with their websites, nothing changed with anything in terms of their payments. The only thing that changed was that they're earning more money immediately after changing their address from their previous address in the AdSense settings to a UK address. This could be obviously a coincidence. There's nothing to do with exchange rates. It has specifically to do with, people are suggesting it has to do with geolocation, location-based, what they're calling smart pricing, which is basically Google's way of figuring out how they should price different ads on the content network. So I'm not sure if it's just a coincidence or anything else, but this is definitely something that people are suggesting that is suggesting that has to do with the location of the person. Let's talk a little bit about Google Maps. Google Maps has a major change to this past week in terms of business locations. They changed the Google Local Business Center's name to Google Places, and that basically gives you some more features as well. One is the Google Maps Help Forum moved to a place called Google Places for business listings. In addition, they finally launched what they call service areas, which allows you to make a Google business listing, as well as say, I don't target the area of my business, but I'm allowed to target other areas outside of my specific location. So I'll serve as a doctor, maybe as a landscaper. I'm not just going to service the area of my location of my business, but I'll service these different areas, which is a big upgrade for Google Maps. There's also a new way to advertise in Google Maps with tags, and there's more information about this on April 21st at SEOroundtable.com. You could ask Google to come to your business and take pictures of inside your business, so they can actually place that when people walk into your business. This is something we talked about in the past as well. That's something we was testing. Now it's available. All you got to do is apply, and Google might go ahead and grant your request. Google's allowing people to customize your QR codes as well. And there's also a new Favorite Places program that's being pushed out as well. I also noticed that you can actually print your own QR codes when you log into the Google Places Center. You can also see that Google launched a new way to add these dynamic parameters with hyperlinks in them. So if you want to link to your menu in the attributes field on the bottom, you can actually do that as well. I have tons and tons of details on my blog post at April 21st. It's definitely worth a read, in my opinion. Other Google Maps things was that Google released, finally brought back their Google Maps 3D, which allows you to see the maps in 3D. There's two ways to access it. One is to right-click on the maps and to see it that way. And the other way is to, when you're on the maps, just press T or the number 3, and it just flips between 3D Street Views and normal Street Views. In addition, Google Maps released smooth scrolling, which is called kinetic scrolling, which allows you to basically drag and drop and allows you to basically interact with the maps in a more smooth manner. So let me show you both for those who are watching live. So here's the smooth scrolling, which I'm going to show to the people who are watching live. You just drag and it just keeps scrolling, which is called kinetic scrolling. And if you're on Street Views and you want to see 3D, all you got to do is right-click on the map and turn 3D mode on. And that turns on 3D. You can see the little 3D elements. You can also hit T or 3, and it should also change as well. This is cute. We're almost done pretty much with this broadcast, but this is pretty cute. So we have a question here from St. Louis Beds, STL Beds. Can you talk a bit about getting in the 7-pack? I'm outside St. Louis area, so I don't know how to show up on these results. You mentioned that you can now get into a larger service market. Yeah, so like I described, basically, thanks for the question, St. Louis Beds. Basically, so I described previously, if you log into the Google Places Center, just go to google.com/places, and I'll show him on the screen how this works. Google.com/places. It logs you into the area. You basically click on, I think over here, on Edit. Yeah, so you click on Edit on your business listing, and if you scroll down a bit, you'll see under the categories, service areas or locations. You say that you basically specify here which locations you offer. You can list them by zip code or distance from your current location. And that can be done directly in the Google Places Center at google.com/places, and hopefully that helps you. If you have any questions, let me know, and I'll keep going with that. All right, so the next topic I wanted to discuss was that a guy went ahead and wanted to propose to his to his girlfriend on Google's homepage or in the Google search results. So basically, he wanted where he types in his wife's name or whatever, his fiance's name, into Google, up comes a thing in Google saying, "Will you marry me?" This guy, basically, I told the guy, there's really no way to do that without either putting on some plugin on your browser or using Google AdWords or maybe using some type of co-op network system within Google. But outside of that, Google will not likely work with you in terms of figuring out or putting this type of ad in your thing. I actually was one of the first people to actually use a search engine to propose to my wife. I actually did this back in 2005, but I proposed to my wife. Ask.com helped me out. It was Ask Jeeves back then. And they basically allowed me, when they typed in my wife's name, to basically put this little thing over here that says, "Yisha, will you marry me?" And it worked out pretty well. I got a lot of press as well. But it was something that I thought was me, and that was probably the pretty cute idea in terms of going forward with that. So that worked out pretty well. Finally, the last topics I want to discuss were the Google logos. And we'll go through them in order. Google Israel had a logo for their Independence Day. Here's the picture of it over here. You can see it's basically the Israeli flag. That was on April 20th, which was their Independence Day this year. Google started deploying using this colorless or white logo on Google portals where there was a day of mourning. So a week ago in Haiti, there was obviously something in Poland. I'm sorry, there was a very tragic thing that happened, and Google put the colorless logo there for the first time. Didn't really get much press because not so many people noticed it. Then Google China or Hong Kong placed a colorless logo on their portal to basically say we're with you on the earthquake, which devastated tons and tons and tons of people. It was horrible. And that was live on Google Hong Kong. I'm not sure if it's still live there. Let's take a quick look. No, it's gone. But basically, Google placed this colorless logo on Google Hong Kong. Baidu did the same thing afterwards as well. Then yesterday was Earth Day, April 22nd, and Google had a very nice logo, which you can see over here. Yahoo had an animated logo, Orkut, Bing, Ask, Dogpile. A lot of different logos out there, including us. We had our own theme as well. And today, there is a logo on Google UK and on Google Turkey. Google UK has a St. George's Day logo, which looks like this. And Google Turkey has a Children's Day logo, which looks like this. And obviously, I'll put this into the video cast for those who are watching it later. So that pretty much recaps the Search Buzz video recap. My name again is Barry Schwartz. Thanks for listening. And hopefully we could incorporate some of the questions going forward in the future. Again, we will be live broadcasting this, hopefully weekly, Friday mornings around 9 o'clock Eastern Time, 10 o'clock Eastern Time. And I will let you know if you follow me on Twitter, @RustyBrick. And that pretty much recaps the Friday, April 23rd edition of the Search Buzz Video Recap. Again, this is the news we covered over the past week at the Search Engine Roundtable. Thank you very much for listening, and thanks you very much for listening and live, and thanks for the questions. Everyone, thank you, and have a great day and weekend. Bye.